Let's talk, scholars.
Let's talk. The first thing I have to say is, how is this all going to work?
How is this all going to work? Is the question.
The question of the episode.
How is this all going to work?
How could it be?
How? I think it's rich. You know what I mean? It's like TV at its prime propaganda.
Literally. Yeah, last week we went pretty deep into like the implications of the American ideals, the Christian ideals, and it's just like it's a propaganda machine. It's interesting because there's like Bachelor Nation propaganda itself. You know, like there's propaganda about the propaganda.
I feel like this, how is this going to work, is like a new catchphrase for the franchise that like they're going to popularize, kind of like the most dramatic season ever. It'll become like, you know what I mean? Like a part of the canon, or as they say, Gabe and Rose's part of the document. And it's going to be kind of a, I guess time will tell if they do a double season every season or ever again, or with a Bachelor.
Yeah.
But how is this going to work? Because it's like their new thing, trying to reinvent themselves to stay in the loop.
they want us to think that it's like so different and new, but I'm like,
they don't want us to think that. They know we are not going to think that, but they want us to straddle that line of suspended reality and hating the show. You know what I mean? It's like that's why they do it, because they know that it'll be frustrating for people to hear, knowing that we know better. But that's what keeps us coming back. It's like whenever you hate follow someone on Instagram.
I don't do that.
I know, but some people do.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's giving that energy of like everyone hate watches The Bachelor, because it's just.
Oh, and they're trying to acknowledge it. Like, we know you're hate watching.
I think they just always acknowledge it. I think that's what the formula of the show is.
Yeah, it's why they put guys. Who is the guy who got kicked off?
Chris.
It's why they put guys like Chris on the show.
Yeah, they knew he was going to be a problem.
You know, they cast that dude is objectively just like unpleasant.
Yes.
They knew he was going to be an issue, right? Like
That's why they have him. They need him.
They need him.
And right after him, Mario fills his spot like clockwork.
Yep, they zoom right in on his face.
And they were, you know, their old format for how to create a villain got pretty old pretty quickly. Like, oh, they're stealing time from everybody else. You know what I mean? Like that formula got pretty overused. And now it's who is going to double cross and date both Rachel and Gabby, the reason that they're there in the first place to do. They're like, that's the whole thing, and that's another thing they're doing, is like, it's the same thing with them villainizing Clayton all the time and being like, why did you have sex with two women? The only reason we brought you on the show and gave you the option to have sex with two women. It is the whole premise of the entire show.
To literally date dozens of people.
Exactly. But then they call these people out for doing exactly what you're supposed to do on the show. That's what I mean. This is the gaslighting that
your
they're doing.
scholar's hat is falling.
This is the gaslighting they're doing, both on the show to the contestants via the lead, or to the lead in Clayton's case, and what they're doing to the audience. They're gaslighting us. That's what I was thinking about earlier. Let's get into it.
Let's.
So the first date, we see Gabby and Rachel talking about, what are we going to do? Like, I know we were talking like pool party vibes, but like, we can't do that. There's too many men to have a pool party. What is this thing they're stuck on trying to tell us that there's so many men?
It's like the same amount as usual.
It's the exact same amount.
It's the same issue that I have. This will come up later, I guess, but we could even just talk about it now. The whole thing that's like, we didn't have a rose ceremony last week. Oh my God, we didn't have a rose ceremony. I'm like, but you kicked off 3 people. That's a rose ceremony.
Correct.
You sent 3 people home simultaneously as they were all gathered in the rose ceremony room. I don't get... What? Are they trying to throw off Bachelor clues and pace case? Is that they can't write down as the stats? They know that they're statisticians?
Well, that's what they were saying last week on their episode, where they were like, we have to give everybody a 0-pointer. Meaning, like, as if everybody got a rose on a group date.
because they pretty much did. I mean, they all got
I think they are
roses
trying
for
to
the
throw
week.
off the format because people because of them, because of Bachelor, Clues, and Pace Case, they're sending people on the show, coaching people, and they're able to predict the format of the show so much, and they're democratizing this information to the masses.
Yeah.
So no longer can we, the proletariat, overthrow the bourgeoisie. And it's much harder.
Dang. See, do you think, I mean, based on how this episode went, it still felt pretty traditional,
Yes, yes.
I do think that those nuances were very unexpected.
Yes, but I think it's a Trojan horse. It's not a Trojan horse. They think it is, and it's not. You know what I mean?
I don't know. What's a Trojan horse?
That story from the fall of Troy, where they or the fall of Rome, I guess. Yes, it was Rome. Where the Trojans brought in the horse, but as a gift to say, "Oh, we're done fighting," and then inside the horse was a bunch of soldiers that they were just crammed up inside the wooden horse, and they escaped and then burnt down the castle from the inside, and let all their army men in.
No, I haven't heard that one.
Wow, this is what I love about being with you. It's I get to tell you, do you know about this man, this mystic man that everybody knows is Kris Kringle? You're like, no.
I know Kris Kringle.
I know, but stuff it's
this thing that everyone knows.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, tell me. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. It's yeah, that's why everyone knows it, because it's awesome.
It's literally like talking to a baby. I love it. Your brain is really wiped of all memory.
I was just never taught that.
VeggieTales didn't teach you about the Trojan horse? You're telling me they didn't teach you about a pagan culture?
No.
Anyway.
Sorry.
So Gabby and Rachel are we can't do a pool party, but I still want to see their abs. So we're getting this illusion, this gaslight that Gabby and Rachel are somehow concocting the dates. They are making.
They're they're really buttering up that little toasty roll. They're really going hard on that. And I'm like, come on, dude.
What's your theory on why?
A theory on why?
I already said my theory.
I think it is also anti. There's the counterculture is rising across Bachelor Nation. Yeah. Their audience is becoming younger and younger.
We fired Chris Harrison. Because we got a petition, us the counterculture.
Oh, okay. And I think that just the audience, as new audience members come in, they're just becoming more and more internet savvy and more culturally hip, to other happenings, and they're they're seeing through it. So I think that this is the producer's attempt to be look, it's so genuine now. We're not just gonna, because what they used to do is they would just whip things up with little to no explanation. It would just more be implied, yeah, I wanted to put this date
so they're
together.
trying to give the illusion of agency, especially for these two women.
Huge illusion of agency, massive. I think the purpose of that is to try and convince new audiences or existing audiences the show has changed. Maybe I don't know, what else could it be?
I think they're giving the illusion the show has changed, because I just heard today that on the Chatty Broads it was on their last week's episode or something that I just finished listening to, that there's a petition going around to let women above a size 6 on the show, because apparently there's never been a woman above a size 6 on the show. And they these women have compiled statistics like Game of Roses, but about body image, and said that only 2 people self-identify as plus size having been on the show, and they were both under a size 6.
Wow.
Or under an 8 or something like that,
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, there are loads of diversity issues on the show.
And I think that, where that dwab at, all these things.
Right.
And we fired Chris Harrison with a literal petition. So
the nation does hold voting power.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to diminish that vote, kind of like our country's leaders.
What do you mean by that?
Gerrymandering and then propaganda of being you don't need to, you just vote Democrat. Don't worry about it, love. Vote vote blue.
Right.
We will take care of it. And then they get in Congress and don't pass shit.
So that this version of that is like, oh, we gave you Jesse, we're giving you 2 bachelorettes.
Yep.
Now just don't worry about it. They got everything taken care of. But no, Bachelor Nation subculture will still continue to rise up.
Rise up. Rise up.
And fight for our nation.
Rise up, scholars. don't vote blue. I mean, I'm not gonna say that.
Blue.
I just mean that I think there's a similarity there.
You mean don't blindly vote?
Yeah, or investigate what's going on. Like, I definitely think vote local. Okay, we're not gonna get into this, but but it's me. We're talking about how there's this huge emphasis on like national voting always, and then you forget to vote for and to research properly your local officials. But the local officials are what really matter because they change the whole system all the way up to the top to some extent, as we've seen with this whole reversal and putting it back to the states to decide. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what I think is happening on The Bachelor as well. It's going back to the states. And let's just...
What happened next?
Okay, so the men... it's every man. I've never seen, and we would have to ask Bachelor Clues and Pay's case about this, but I've never seen a season where all the men go on the first group date. All the men were on this date. But granted, it wasn't really a date. The pageant.
Yeah, right. But then again, it's like, should we think about it that way? If we think about it that way, then we're kind of falling for the propaganda.
Exactly.
It was a group date.
It wasn't, though. Yeah, exactly. It was scarcity. Everybody was... It was...
You know what I think? This shit
it was New York City.
This shit's reminding me... yeah, too many people. This shit's reminding me a lot of, like, fraternity hazing.
Oh, my God.
It's, like, weird. It's, like, the forced... For one thing, it's the forced nudity. And then, like, for another thing...
Cite your sources.
What do you mean?
Forced nudity is a Bachelor...
Oh.
A Game of Roses.
Game of Roses term, forced nudity. Mm-hmm. If there's forced nudity, there is, they're all men. Mm-hmm. They're all like hunky chunky. You know what I mean? It's like a very hypermasculine environment.
Yeah, don't you think some of the more like soft-bodied men felt a little like maybe not want to do this?
Hazing.
Like, yeah, exactly. Because it's like, why are you going to make him feel self-conscious about his body?
I just don't get what the point of that was.
Well, I think there's always in our culture, it's like, oh, it's fine if we ask men to be naked against their will.
I literally said while we were watching it, imagine if they did this with The Bachelor, with all the women go in thongs and like bras.
Yeah, exactly. They always do this.
That would never happen.
They always put men in thongs or Speedos or something like that on the show.
I just think that sucks. Like, that's really reinforcing like... that you need to have this certain kind of body type. You have to be ready at any moment to show off your juicy abs.
Start the petition, dad bods. Start the petition.
And even skinny bod, like literally just any bod but the I spend 3 hours a day in the gym lifting weights bod, As Clues would say, the vascularity. What is that?
Vascularity of it all. We're going to be saying of it all a lot this episode because we just went to Nashville and that's what all of our college friends are saying now. Of it all. The vascularity.
Of it all.
Exactly. So what Clues is saying, he said he saw that like there's a new trend on Instagram within the trainer community of like having a bunch of veins pop out and like how can you get he saw it on someone's TikTok. One of the guys who's going to be like on the show, they did a TikTok about like vascularity and how to get your veins to be popping.
The veins are I still want the veins,
yeah, so it's part of the culture, part of the lore. So I can tell I can already tell you Clues is going to have a field day with this, or already did. I haven't even listened to their episode yet, but where he's going to be like the vascularity of it all, like there was not enough vascularity. He feels like there's not enough vascularity. So, I think it's also part of this propaganda of like feminism. Like we're going to reverse gender norms. You know that thing that we did where we had women dress up. We had women disrobe and sell themselves and commodify themselves on stage, and we called it a pageant. Yeah, we're going to do it to these men, you know, and that's going to make it right.
It felt like it was just humiliating.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
It's It's kind of that thing like, oh, we have to call them male strippers, you know? It's like, why aren't they just strippers?
Right.
Or dancers, you know?
Yeah.
Moving on. There were some standouts, like I felt like wait, back up. The comment that you noticed from Rachel when she said, finally in the mansion, not in the hotel, when they came to tell the guys that they were going to
yeah, it was like a little side comment when she was like greeting everyone. It was like, finally in the mansion, not in the hotel. I was like, interesting that they left that in the edit, that they're going to talk about them not just appearing at the mansion existing. Like, they basically acknowledge that these people are cast and that they have to go to a waiting room in a hotel, and then once they go to the first night, then they get to be in the mansion. Like, I've never heard that mentioned before. Maybe it has been mentioned before, but I have never personally.
I've never heard that, except on the COVID seasons where they were like, we could see them in their hotel.
Oh, but I mean, the place was at a hotel.
Yeah.
This is like, we're back in normal times. Like, they shouldn't be.
It's like, maybe it's like a post-apocalyptic, like, let's bridge the gap between the COVID times and the normal times, you know?
Oh, so what she was saying is like, isn't it great that we're not shooting the show at a hotel?
No, she was saying like,
I think a double entendre.
No, I think they kept it in for sinister reasons, to control us, because they're trying to make us forget about the COVID season, but also remember it at the same time. It's another gaslight. You know what I mean? Like, to make us think we're getting something so much better than what we used to have during the COVID seasons. But then to keep us to be like, oh, this is amazing. But then also give us that little hit of like, you know, oh, this is a reality show. Here's behind the curtain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They kept doing that this episode, where they had like Rachel talking to like a producer or something.
Right. We had the camera crew come out. Yeah.
They've been doing it more and more since Ari's season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they have like the producers in the edit, and like they're showing like stuff that and that's another like a little like pick me like thing where like, oh, we're giving like this show is real, you know? But it's also like, you know, it's fake. It's both. It's a gaslight. Literally. I'm going to be on, that's tonight's episode, gaslight.
Gaslight.
Girl boss, gatekeep, gaslight, out of order. So, Logan was the first one. And right off the bat, we have a black square. So we know Logan has a big dick. Or at least they're trying to make us think he does.
Yeah.
But the girls were like, oh my God, I can't look at it.
Maybe it's just a teeny weeny thong.
It's just like, oh shit.
Maybe it was just a sock. I
kind of feel like he has big dick energy though.
Yeah.
Dude is comfortable.
Yeah.
You know? And also, it's not the size. That's not about that. But I do think that's the whole point. Back to your Speedo comment or your forced nudity comment, a la Game of Roses. It's because like the reason that is intriguing is because of the whole male stripper thing of like this whole the show is called Bachelorette. It's a bachelorette party, and we're watching at home. So every Monday night we get to go on our own little fantasy TV Bachelorette in Nashville. But instead, we're in our living rooms, and we're just being droned out like the people in Wall-E, where they're on their little scooters and watching TV at 24/7, and we're just droned out watching the Bachelorette, pretending we're the Bachelorette, and there are strippers, and you know what I mean. And we get to pay. Like, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. That's the gag. You know.
Whoa.
Mind blown.
Shout out to Quincy for the full body thong.
Literally, okay.
The neon full body.
It was so funny because it reminded me of my brother Will, and he had this bit where he was little. He would put on all my mom's thongs like that, and he would call himself Thong Man.
I love that.
And he would also put on her heels and run really fast. And he said it was his Flash costume, which was a bunch of thongs.
Funny.
Which, you know, you're poor when that is a story. When that story exists, broke as fuck. Broke as a joke.